So in this video we're going to take a look at how we set up text to speech. So what I mean by that is that we can actually go and make a random text, and then we will have like an AI voice that is going to read it out loud. So let's go and try this. So you can see that it will go and say, this is amazing that we can do this with only C#. So let's go and run the console app.
This is amazing, we can do this with only C#.
So before we can do any C#, we actually need to go and download the model that can go and read this loud. So to actually get started, we need to go to GitHub, and then we have to go to this Piper. I will put a link in the description, but actually once we're in here, we can go to the releases. So go and click that, and you might just want to go with the latest version here. So in this case, it is Windows, so we want to go and install this Piper Windows AMD 64. So go and download that. So once that is downloaded, you can go and right click the folder inside your downloads and go and say extract all, and then just extract. So now when that is extracted, we have this Piper folder, where if we go inside it, you can see we have all our files, and we do also have our piper.exe, which is the file that we have to run to actually go and make speech out of some text. So the thing I will do now is to go and just take this Piper folder, go and open a new Explorer here, and then I will actually just go and drop it into my C folder. It will be the easiest place to fetch it. So just take the Piper file and go and drop it into your C folder. So once that is done, the only thing we need in here now is an actual model to the language that we want to go and make a speech of. And there is actually a couple of languages that you can go and use. Some of them is of course better than others, but you will have to go back to GitHub here and go to the code again. And if we scroll down, you can see down in the README file here, we have all the different languages that we can choose from. So now we can just go to this download voices, and then we do have a big hierarchy here where we can go and choose both between the languages, but actually also between the quality of the model. So we do have low quality, medium, and then there is actually also some high quality. It's right here, but the language we are interested in right now is the English ENUS here. And if we scroll a bit down, I actually want to go and take this Orion, and let's try to go and take the high-end model here. It will of course cost some extra computing power, but it is not that much. If you have a pretty good computer, it should be no problem to run these high. But we do want to go and download the model, so click model. And then we want to click the config, and this is the config file. So the way we can go and save this as a JSON file is just go and right click and say that we want the raw form. So you could also hit Ctrl U, and now you can just hit Ctrl S to save it. So we do get a quite long name here, but we're just interested in removing this, and then also removing the end here, underscore download and all this, so that we get the file name. And actually we also want to go and remove this, so it will just be like this. I don't really think it matters what you call it as long as it is the JSON, but this is a good format to hold. So let's just say save, and I just saved it the wrong place. So you have of course to go to our folder in the C folder again, or in the C drive, and go to the Piper folder and then put it in here. So go and say save. So the other file that we downloaded before, it will be in our downloads. So let's go and open the Explorer here, go to downloads, and then we have this file here. It's just an ONNX file, and you will just drag it again to the Piper folder that we created. So now we can just go and close our downloads, because there's not really more that we have to use. So the next thing we have to do is to go and test if we can actually go and create a file before we do it in C#. So let's go and open PowerShell, and in here you do want to go back a bit. So cd ... and cd ... to come to the C folder, and then cd and then Piper, because that was the folder we created inside the C drive. But before we do anything else, let's just go and test out that Piper is working. So you want to say Piper and then dash dash, and you can say help. Okay, so that was actually my fault. We have to say dot and then backslash and then help. because it is inside this folder that the piper is running. And this is also actually very helpful, because in here you can see the options that we have when we use piper. We do have to go and specify the model that we want to use, so it was just the files that we just downloaded, and the config, which was the other file, the JSON file. And then when you say -f, then we can go and output it as a WAV file. So the last thing we have to do to actually go and test it is by say echo, and then you go and say the string that you want to have a speech of, then this pipe, and then again you want to go and target the pipe.exe. It is the file that is going to execute everything here. And then we say -model or M for the model. So we're going to take the file that we put inside the folder, and C was for the config file as we saw up here. And that will be the JSON file that we put inside our folder. And finally, we want to go and say F, because it is the output file, and we just want to give it a name. So let's go and test if this is working. So I hit enter, and it looks like it worked because we have these green boxes here. So if we go back to the folder, we can now see we have a test1 file here. So let's go and listen to it.
This is amazing. We can do this with only C#.
So for now it's working, so it's very nice that we can do this. But then now we actually want to go and do it with C#. So let's go and open a new Visual Studio 2022 project, and then let's say create a new project. And in this case we will just be using a console app. So say next, and then the name, it really doesn't matter what we call it, you can just say next, and then we will go and use .NET 8. So we will just say create. So before we do any coding, we will just go and add a library or a NuGet package. So go to manage NuGet packages and go to browse, and then you will browse for this system.windows.extensions. So we do just want to go and install this, and it will just make sure that we can actually go and hear what we are creating of sounds. So let's go and install it and go back to the program.cs file. So you can go and delete this, and the first thing we will input here is the using of a system.media. I will just scroll in a bit here, and just to keep it a little bit more simple than what you saw before, I don't want to go and make any classes and the main function. It should be able to run just like this when it's a console app. But the first thing we will do is to make the actual command to the PowerShell. So we will make a string called command, and then we will actually just go and insert the whole string that we put inside PowerShell. So I will go and put the string in the description so you don't have to write all this. It is a long string. So the next variable here is also just a string, and it will just be the place that we place the piper folder. So when we have the path to the piper folder here, we can actually go and make the audio file path also. So we do say path and then say .combine, because then we can go and take what we created here, and then we will just say it should be this file when it inserted to the folder. So you can of course call this whatever you want, but it has to be a .wav file or what it's called. So the next thing is a big chunk of code here where we make a process. So we will just go and save it as a process, and inside the process we want to go and create a process start info, because it is in here that we can go and actually specify all the things. So I know we executed this in PowerShell, but you can also just go and do it in your command line. So you have to just say file name and then cmd.exe, so that it will go and execute it in a command line or a command prompt. But you don't have to be worried, because down here we say use shell execute and we say false. So, and also create no window, so it will be true, so you will not see it pop up or do anything. It will just execute in the background. We can then go and set the arguments to be the command that we set in here, and the working directory should of course just be our working directory that we created up here. And we can go and set the redirect standard output and also error to true. So next up we can say, just for some convenience so we can see what is happening, we can say generating sound file, and then we can go and start the process. So what that will do is just go and execute all this code. We do then need to go and wait for exit, and we do that async. So we will go and wait till the process is actually done. So if it is done, we will go and check if the file exists, the audio file, that we created, see if the path to the actual audio file exists. And if it does that, we will go and run this code. So first of all, we will just say it will be playing the sound, so we will actually hear it. And the way we hear it is by using this sound player. And that was actually with the extension pack that we just downloaded at the beginning. But once we have the sound player, we can go and specify the file that it should go and play. And we will go and put it inside a player variable. And then when we have the player variable, we can go and say play sync. So we do want to go and play this synchronized. And when it's done playing, we will just say that it is done. So now let's go and test if this is working. And I will just go and write something else here. So I say testing from Visual Studio 2022. Let's see if it can make that as a speech.
Testing from Visual Studio 2022.
So that actually worked, and you can of course go and do a lot of nice projects with this. It was also in different languages. So my language is Danish and it worked okay, but we have 3 letters in Denmark called A, Ø, og Å, and these 3 letters it couldn't really go and pronounce. It just says some weird sounds. But I do think that the English version is pretty good when you think about that it is free and it is generated locally on our own PC. But yeah, thank you for watching and go and have a nice day. Bye.